Aristarch Adrastos Lorientos leads his forces to the place the Mechanist Bion assures him is the resting place of the Eye of Doom. As his forces enter the valley ruins, Adrastos realizes his problems are mounting exponentially minute by minute. First is Bion the Mechanist, who has fallen back to the rear of the column promising to unveil something important from his covered wagons. The second is that there seem to be 3 powerful items in the valley, and how is Adrastos supposed to know which is the key one? And thirdly, his scouts have reported that the Nords have tailed the column, and an opposing force seems to be forming on the other side of the valley. Turn 1. Leading the way in the Thorakites is Polemarch Praxiteles. Matching his pace and covering the left flank are the Selenoi, as they escort Adrastos towards the highest ruin and best vantage point on the battlefield. With a roar, the Nords raiders enter the ruins in the center of the battlefield. Hidden amongst their mass is the shaman Rognvald, who takes note of the items of power in the vicinity, and starts chanting, trying to pinpoint the one he wants. Flanking Rognvald and providing real cover is Ursa and her bow chosen. Turn 2. Adrastos and the Selenoi make their way to the ruined tower and take position in the high ground. Rognvald starts channeling his power towards the floating stone, beginning to drain the essence away from its shackles. Praxiteles leads his men to the mystic axe embedded in the statue head, and orders some of the men to start digging around the statue, as his instincts tell him the axe is a red herring. As the bow chosen move forward eyeing up the Thorakites, a chariot rumbles into view flanking Adrastos. Just as the chariot driver begins to pick up speed, he notices a wall walking towards him through the haze. Before him strides Dreki Olafsson the Taoiseach of Aldamne, and his Huskarls. With the dragon banner proudly held high, the Huskarls begin to bang their shields, calling the city-state's troops to test their might. On the opposite flank, the Flogobalan chariot moves behind the Thorakites. With a ground-shaking bellow, the Minotaur Haspists enter the grounds, but before the Nords can take stock of the situation, the sounds of a horde marching in perfect unison reverberates around the valley. The Mechanist Bion has arrived with his latest creation, a horde of prototype clockwork hoplites. Turn 3. Distracted by the sounds of automata advancing, Rognvald also finds his power rebuffed from the floating stone, and starting to panic, he orders the raiders to fall back, not willing to risk himself for only the potential to find the eye. The Scorpio's driver lines up the advancing Huskarls and begins to unleash bolt after bolt into their shield wall. At the same time, Mechanist Bion leads his clockwork automata towards a mystical reliquary. Adrastos and the Selenoi, taking advantage of their elevated position, begin to pepper the Huskarls with barbed arrows. Ignoring all the incoming danger, Dreki and his Huskarls charge upon the magical stone, cutting its chains, and as they move it to the back of their formation, the Huskarls turn to face the city-state forces. Rumbling across the cobblestones, Minotaurs begin to charge towards the bow chosen. Fortunately for the bow chosen, the Ugra have moved up behind them in support, ready for a clash of muscles. Flas Volta the mighty Hephaestion arrives on the flank, eyeing up the Huskarls, beginning to channel molten power into his famous trident. His appearance seems to have drawn the attention of the crazed Ulfhednar. Kveldulf wants blood, giant blood. Circling around the rocky ruins, the Flogobalan starts to flank the Nord's forces. Ursa and her bow chosen, noticing the flanking chariot, decide to take the initiative and charge the hulking Minotaurs. The Thorakites and Polemarch Praxiteles expertly change formation, turning to flank the bow chosen and support the Minotaurs, and the two combined forces begin to carve up the chosen, butchering them. With astonishing but maybe not surprising speed, the mountain Jotnar Tethra appears on the flank of the Falogobalan. Just as the Nord's forces think they may have already got their hands on the Eye of Doom, they notice the city-state's forces have already gathered up all the other objects of power in the vicinity, seemingly ignoring the one they have. For unbeknownst to the Nords, the runes that Bayan investigated have told him not only where the Eye of Doom was buried, but that there are fakes in the vicinity to help deceive would-be thieves. Keeping the information to himself, Bayan has allowed Adrastos to distract the Nord's commander. And now Bayan has his hands on the reliquary containing the Eye of Doom. Turn 4. Unfortunately for the Hephaestian, Flas Volta, Dreki Olafsson and his men have cut down many a giant in their time. They charge home into Falls, injuring him and sending him fleeing for his safety. Seeking to stop the Huskarls running the Hephaestian down, the Scorpios chariot drives hard into the Huskarl flank, with the Lions bringing down a handful of the veteran fighters. As the Nord Jotnar Tethra chases the fleeing Flogobalan, he finds himself led into the rear of the Thorakites, swinging his tree trunk with wild abandon. Under Adrastos' wise guidance, the Selenoi continue to pick off the Huskarls, severely diminishing their number. Ursa and her pet, Signy, refuse to lose and continue to try to bring down the Minotaurs, looking for a way around their gigantic shields. The Polemarch Praxiteles rushes through his own ranks to confront the rampaging giant, and with astonishing speed and technique, begins to carve up the giant's legs. The remaining Minotaurs refuse to be baited by the bow chosen, and maintaining their shield wall continue methodically cutting down Nord's warriors. Mechanist Bayan realizes there are many more Nords than he thought. Worried that he will lose his newly acquired artifact, he can't decide on which direction to face the clockwork hoplites. There are raiders to his front, Ulfhednar to his left and now Bearsarks to his right. But the first threat is the rampaging Ugra, who drive home into his flank. Turn 5. The Scorpios chariot continues to maul the Huskarls, as with strategic aplomb, Mechanist Bayan orders his clockwork hoplites to spin on the spot and begin carving the Ugra apart, which they do with eerie aplomb, decimating the Ugra. Polemarch Praxiteles continue to cut away at the giant's legs, but they are so thick and the giant seems to show no sign of wilting. Dreki Olafsson and the last of his men get a hold of one of the lions, and put it down with extreme relish. Isra, succumbing to reality, acknowledges that the Minotaurs will not break and leads the last of her friends away from the battlefield. With a victorious bellow, the Minotaurs attempt to run down the fleeing foe, only to run headlong into Egil Skullgrimson and the Bearsarks. With a mighty final swing, Tethra knocks out Praxiteles and the Thorakites flee the field. Tethra takes a pause, catching his breath and eyeing up the strange mechanical men. The Flogobalan continues to flee towards the hoplites, seeking cover behind friendly forces. Rognvald senses that something is wrong, and turning his attention to the strange mechanical men and their leader, he determines that answers are to be found there. In the clash of the leaders, Adrastos comes out on top. His tactical acumen is too much, and his use of the Selenoi causes Dreki to retreat from the field, to save the remnants of his personal guard. And Adrastos sends some Selenoi to bring the magic stone to him, as he is still unaware of Mechanist Bayan's plans. Denied giant blood by the Huskarls, Kveldulf and the Ulfhednar charge into the rear of the mechanical men, looking to unleash their fury. The Minotaur Haspist's confidence in their shield wall proves to be terribly misplaced, as Bodvar Jarki and his Bearsarks easily chop their way through the cows. As the afternoon begins to wane, Mechanist Bayan finds himself slowly being circled by a horde of frothing berserkers. Turn 6. As the Ulfhednar start to chip away at the solid metal bodies before them, they are shocked to see all the automata spin on the spot and start to impale Ulfhednar regardless of any damage done. Kveldulf sobers up real quick, and decides to leave these abominations to the Bearsarks, and with an ironic chuckle he leads the Ulfhednar away. The Flogobalan has finally found its way to safety, just as the Bearsarks and Egil Skullgrimson crash into the rear of the hoplites. Adrastos Lorientos surveyed the battlefield and sends orders to the Scorpios and his Selenoi to thin the ranks of the oncoming raiders. He realizes this battle will be decided by Bayan's new toys and their survival is paramount. Whilst the Nords are battered and bloodied, they now sense victory, and like a rabid wolf pack converge on the Clockwork Man. Soon the prize will be theirs. Turn 7. As the Clockwork Hoplites and Berserks continue to chop each other to pieces, the Scorpios flanks Rognvald, and slaughters the unaware raiders, injuring Rognvald right as he thought he could grasp his prize. In the main melee, the Berserks are starting to falter. Tethra charges into the fight, splashing his own blood and weird mechanical fluids everywhere. And surprising everyone, the Flogobalan makes a return to the action, bathing the Berserks in liquid death, annihilating the unit. Turn 8. As night sets and both sides struggle to see and take stock of what's happening, Tethra finds himself fighting off the silent, relentless automata, as Mechanist Bayan retreats with the Eye of Doom, with cover from Adrastos and his Selenoi. The city-states have won the prize, and now Bayan can start to work dominating the Eye of Doom, seeking to bring it under his control.